All right, Broncos country, buckle up. Because while fans are still buzzing about the 2025 NFL Draft, there's a much bigger story that isn't getting nearly enough attention. Behind the scenes, the Denver Broncos are facing some major decisions that could shake up this roster heading into training camp. And those decisions, they're not just about rookies. No. This is about veterans, guys we've all watched suit up in the orange and blue, guys who have started games, made big plays, and fought through tough moments. And now, some of them might not even make it to week 1. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. Let's start by looking at the numbers. Right now, the Broncos have 92 players on their off-season roster. That's 2 players over the limit, meaning cuts are coming. And trust me, they aren't going to be easy. Let's start on the defensive backfield, because that's where the competition is already heating up. Over the past few years, the Broncos have poured draft capital, free agent dollars, and scouting resources into the secondary, and it's paid off. This unit is deep, maybe too deep. Right at the heart of that conversation is PJ Locke. The Broncos fans know PJ well. He started games last season, he battled through injuries, he played through adversity. And while he had some rough moments, I'll tell you right now, not all of that was on him. There's this narrative floating around that PJ Locke was the weak link last year. But if you really understand the coverage schemes and what was being asked of him, you'd know that a lot of those breakdowns came from issues at linebacker and the overall defensive structure, not just from PJ. But here's the reality. The Broncos didn't sign Talanoa Hufanga to ride the bench. They didn't give Brandon Jones a lot of free agent money to be a rotational piece. Those two are locked in as your starting safeties. No debate, no question. So, what will happen to PJ Locke? Is he valuable enough as a rotational safety and special teams contributor to justify keeping him? Personally, I think the answer is yes. You need depth in today's NFL. Injuries happen. You don't want to be scrambling for help in October, but PJ isn't the only one fighting for a spot. Delarrin Turner-Yell is right there with him. Last season, Turner-Yell never really got going. He came off the PUP list mid-season, but because of roster limitations, the Broncos never fully activated him. Now, he's in a make-or-break year. And standing in his way, J.L. Skinner, Devin Key, Kydron Smith, all hungry young players looking to make their mark. Let's not forget Damarri Mathis either, former starter, 4th-round pick. He's had some up-and-down moments, but here's the thing. When you look at the depth chart, where does Mathis fit? You've got Pat Surtain, too, one of the best corners in the game, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillian, and now Chris Abrams-Draine all ahead of him. That's 4 roster locks. Can the Broncos afford to keep a 5th or 6th cornerback? Maybe. But if Mathis isn't going to play meaningful snaps in Denver, don't be surprised if the team looks to trade him or release him to give him a fresh start somewhere else. It's the business side of football, and it's a tough one. Switching over to the offensive side of the ball, Trent Sherfield is a name that keeps coming up. He signed a 2-year, $6 million deal this offseason, but only $1.5 million of that is guaranteed. That tells you right away, Sherfield isn't a roster lock. Look at the wide receiver room. Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Devon Vale, Troy Franklin, and Pat Bryant. That's 5 guys who feel like they're ahead of Sherfield right now. And here's the thing. Are the Broncos really going to keep 7 wide receivers? Maybe. But Sherfield is going to have to prove he's a difference maker on special teams, because as a receiver, his path to playing time looks pretty narrow. Tight end is another spot where things are getting interesting. Lucas Krull was a name some fans were excited about last year. But now, with Caleb Lohner coming in on a 4-year deal, Krull is firmly on the bubble. He's going to have to show something big in camp to stick around. And what about Eyioma Uwazurike on the defensive line? After missing last season, he's in a tough spot. The Broncos like Sai'vion Jones. They like Jordan Jackson. There's competition here. Uwazurike has to prove he's ready to contribute again, or he could find himself on the outside looking in. At wide receiver, the main draft addition is Pat Bryant from Illinois, a 3rd-round pick. I've slotted him right behind Courtland Sutton on the depth chart. Not because he's wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 right now, but because he's likely to be the backup at X receiver. If Sutton were to miss time, Bryant is probably the best fit to replicate his route tree. Marvin Mims has speed and could line up outside, but Bryant seems like the more natural replacement for Sutton's role. Moving on to tight ends, no major shakeups there. Caleb Lohner, the 7th rounder, is at the back of the line. Not surprising. Along the offensive line, Denver didn't draft anyone, but they did sign Clay Webb as a UDFA. He's an intriguing prospect, former 5-star recruit, 3 years at Georgia, then transferred to Jacksonville State. On the field, he's a legitimate talent. Off the field, there are character concerns, including an unresolved hazing-related lawsuit from high school. If anyone's going to push Luke Wattenberg for the starting center role, it's Webb. Wattenberg hasn't locked that job down yet. Now let's shift to the defensive side of the ball, starting with the D-line. Zach Allen, PJ Jones, and John Franklin Myers remain the projected starters. The notable new name is Sai'vion Jones, a 3rd-round pick out of LSU. Great size at 6 feet 6 inches, 280 pounds. He didn't produce big numbers last season, just 4.5 sacks and a couple of forced fumbles, but his traits are promising. I expect him to rotate in early and potentially become the first guy off the bench, especially if the veterans ahead of him need breathers on early downs. Linebacker is crowded. Dre Greenlaw slots into a starting role after arriving from San Francisco. Alex Singleton is returning from injury, and Drew Sanders, yes, he still exists, should be the top backup, remember. Sanders tore his Achilles last April, which wiped out much of his rookie season. Denver has tried him both inside and outside, but I think they ultimately want him blitzing from the inside, where he thrived at Arkansas. As for rookie Quandarrius Robinson, the 4th rounder from Alabama, he's more of a long-term project. I've got him slotted behind Jonah Ellis on the outside. He might contribute on special teams, but don't expect to see much from him unless injuries strike. Now to the secondary. Let's talk cornerbacks. I'm placing Jahdae Barron, Denver's 1st-round pick, as CB3. He's likely to back up Jaquan McMillian in the slot, even though Barron has outside potential too. If Pat Surtain II or Riley Moss gets hurt, Barron might be the first one off the bench, but for now, I see McMillian keeping the starting nickel job. He's played too well the last 2 seasons to just get bumped down. Remember, nobody was complaining about Denver's nickel play before the draft. So let's not manufacture a reason to rush Barron onto the field just to